welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. Hello, beautiful people of Steelers Nation. Thank you for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Noah Strackbine, joined every Tuesday and Thursday by my main man, Donnie Drew. And find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Donnie, everybody and their mother is talking smack on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Plus, Tom Brady is heading to Fox on a ridiculous deal, and James Bradberry is heading to the open market on what could be the perfect deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got plenty to talk about here. It's a beautiful day out here in the Berg. Sun is shining. It's like 90 degrees in this office right now. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling great. 86 degrees here in northern Phoenix. Feels
like
for
the first time, we might 77. Thought we were close. Thought we had you beat.
Yeah, dude. Midwestern weather is weird because I feel like you can experience all four seasons, all in kind of like the same 24-hour period. Whereas like out here in the desert, it's dry every single day. Dry, barely any clouds. Like it rains probably like 6 times a year here. Just absolutely wild.
Dude, it rained 6 times last week. 6 times a year. You can't do anything. You have to take advantage of these days. So out here, the last 2 days, it's been nice. And for 2 days, I have done yard work until about 10 o'clock at night because I know that this is not going to last long. And eventually it's just going to be rain again nonstop for like 2 weeks at a time. So enjoy your desert, man. Enjoy your desert. It's a good time. All right, Donnie, let's start with Richard Sherman. Talking, I don't want to say smack. He didn't talk smack on Kenny Pickett. He just gave his honest opinion, I believe. That honest opinion did come off a little aggressive. He said that he doesn't trust. It was on his podcast. It said that he didn't trust a quarterback that wears 2 gloves. Obviously, Kenny 2 gloves. Steelers first-round draft pick. Quarterback of the future, most likely. Probably going to wear 2 gloves his whole career. I want to say that what he said is very narrow-minded, and I have reasons to believe that. But what are your opinions here first on Richard Sherman saying that he doesn't trust a guy who wears 2 gloves at quarterback?
I feel like if you were to compile a list of NFL players to take somebody's opinion from, Richard Sherman is probably like a top 3, top 5 guy. I mean, the dude is like intellectually, like speaking, like one of the smartest guys probably to play during his time period.
True.
Negotiated his own contracts. I mean, graduated from Stanford. I mean, that dude is substantially smarter than I will ever be. So like whenever he speaks, like you definitely at least tune in at minimum. You normally don't see quarterbacks wearing gloves in the NFL. Of course, you have guys like Teddy Bridgewater, and obviously, we've seen Big Ben with our own 2 eyes wear 2 gloves whenever deemed necessary on a handful of occasions. But you don't see it a lot, and you don't see it a lot in the quote-unquote like weathery games, aka whenever it's raining, because whenever it rains, obviously the material on the gloves kind of like dissipates due to the water, and then all of a sudden the grip's no longer there, and it's pretty much pointless. Kenny wears the gloves because it helps him get a better grip on the ball. And I believe I remember him talking about how his thumb, like the joint's like super weird to where it allows his thumb to like it adjusts over the ball to give him even like better grip than a lot of the quarterbacks do have.
AKA an 8.5 inch hand size.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot has been made about Kenny's hand size, and like I get it because when you're looking at measurables and when you're looking at numbers, historically speaking, a lot of those guys that have come out with the smaller hands just have not fared well. And then you get into the whole glove argument. I don't know, man. I understand where Sherman's coming from because at the end of the day, historically speaking, those concerns I feel like are somewhat valid because like we really have not seen a guy consistently wear 2 gloves throughout his entire career and be successful. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 that I'm forgetting about right now. I think Kurt Warner wore gloves for a small amount of time too, but
Oh, he did actually. I didn't think about that one. My list was Teddy Bridgewater, and it ended right there.
Yeah.
That's all the only name I could think of is Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy Two Gloves. I mean, it's a perfect nickname for him. But like to focus on like the other side of it though, I feel like this guy's career is not going to hinge on whether or not he wears gloves. It's just going to hinge on him being a good quarterback, being able to manage the game, and being able to place balls where they should be. And obviously, gripping a football is a very important part of a quarterback's accuracy. But I feel like the gloves aren't a big deal. I really don't. It's 2022. I know a lot of the old heads, the old school people are not in favor of quarterbacks wearing gloves. But, dude, if it helps you grip the football better, I throw a football better whenever I wear gloves.
It's 2022 argument has been used in so many different ways. Quarterbacks wearing two gloves, I never imagined it. I didn't see it hitting this point. Like, I didn't think we were going to bring it in here, but here it is. It's 2022. Quarterbacks wear two gloves. We should make t-shirts. Yeah. Nobody else make t-shirts right now. Those will be on sale within a week. Anyways, my list starts and ends with Teddy Bridgewater. Kurt Warner, might be a maybe. I have to look back on that one, but I've never seen another quarterback that consistently wears two gloves. And I think that's where my argument stops and ends with Richard Sherman is why are we talking about a quarterback who doesn't wear two gloves? Oh, you can't trust him. It rubs me the wrong way. You've seen it one time, consistently one time. And granted, Teddy Bridgewater is not a good NFL quarterback. I don't believe Teddy Bridgewater would have been a good NFL quarterback if he wore no gloves compared to two gloves. So I feel like it's a very narrow-minded argument to be made from Richard Sherman. If he said something like, oh, his hand size is small, that concerns me, this is why it concerns me. All right. Yep. I get that argument. That being said, people made it about everybody else. That also being said, they've never been this small. Kenny Pickett has the smallest hand size in NFL history for a guy who is presumably going to be a starting quarterback. I feel like it was a very lackadaisical argument to just say, I don't trust him. I don't know what you don't trust.
The quarterbacks of the last year who wore at least one glove were Tom Brady, Big Ben, Matt Ryan, and Jameis Winston. If you want to throw Taysom Hill in there as a quarterback, you can. Then obviously Teddy Bridgewater. I think Teddy's the only guy who actually wore two gloves. And then you have guys like Sam Darnold and Derek Carr who occasionally wore a glove and then occasionally didn't wear gloves. You could throw Winston and Brady.
Is this two gloves?
Those were at least one. I think the only guy to actually wear two gloves was Bridgewater, and I feel like I've seen Taysom Hill wear two gloves as well. But obviously,
Taysom Hill doesn't count. He's a tight end.
That's yeah. That's not company you want Kenny Pickett to be in, though. But like on the other side of the coin, like Kenny is not Teddy. Kenny is not Taysom Hill.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. As I feel like it's such a small argument to make because it's such a small list that has only just started. If this is 15 years from now and there was a dozen guys who wore two gloves and only 3 of them ever made it, then I get it. At that point, people would be saying, oh, well, Kenny Pickett and these 2 other guys, they made a solid career out of wearing two gloves, but 9 others didn't. But when you look at the list, you're just going, yeah, well, Teddy Bridgewater didn't have a good career wearing two gloves. Taysom Hill isn't a quarterback who tried to play quarterback and needed to wear two gloves. Kenny Pickett's not going to succeed because he wears two gloves. That just doesn't make it. Kenny Pickett's a true-blooded quarterback who plays the actual quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater came into the NFL and everyone knew that Teddy Bridgewater was a guy that could only play West Coast football and he could play it just in the middle of the field. And Kenny Pickett has a lot of those same arguments. Kenny Pickett is also probably a much better mover around the pocket than Teddy Bridgewater was, especially for a guy who does have a lot of athleticism in Teddy Bridgewater. He just never made those things happen. And he's shown that he could throw the deep ball. Now it fades on him most of the time, but he could launch it much farther than Teddy Bridgewater ever could. There was times in college where Teddy just looked like he was a guy where if you weren't running a slant route, he wasn't completing the pass. And that was the argument from the jump.
There's
that's
times
what the
right
argument
now
is now.
Where it looks like that. Like
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think I've seen Teddy push a ball more than 30 yards down the field in years.
Years. Never in his career. I remember watching him play a Vikings playoff game the year that whoever the kicker was missed I don't remember how it went down, but I remember a kicker saved the game and then lost the game. It was nuts. When he was playing for Minnesota that year, I watched that playoff game, and time again, I said, this is going to be a slant play because that's all Teddy throws. That's all he's able to throw. We saw that. That's why he didn't work out in Carolina, because they have guys like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who are deep ball guys, and he couldn't get the ball to him. So Teddy Bridgewater, I just think it's a very lackadaisical argument for Richard Sherman to be making on whether or not a quarterback's going to succeed, because we've seen it one time. And like you said, to start this whole conversation off, Richard Sherman's a guy who's incredibly intelligent, and I feel could make a much better argument. So it is what it is. It is what it is. On the other side of that, flipping the coin here, former Steeler talking about another former Steeler. Again, we have different opinions on whether or not this is smack talk or not, but Antonio Brown, who just loves to talk, came out and in the midst of just totally destroying Colin Kaepernick, talking about a couple of other things that, at some point you just kind of move away from it. But he mentioned Hines Ward's name, and you're always going to pay attention when Hines Ward is mentioned. He said that he knew Hines Ward, his time was up, and he just, quote unquote, wanted him to hurry up and get out the way so that Antonio Brown could start playing. This is the exact quote so that nobody gets it wrong here. Nothing is given. You have to work for everything you have. I'm actually grateful for going late in the draft because it allowed me to be disciplined in regards to some of the other guys getting opportunities early, getting a lot of money early. And I think this is reference to Hines Ward. But I don't regret nothing from my situation and how it happened. I'm trying to tell him that he goes on to talk about Hines Ward. I'm trying to tell him, hurry up and get out the way. Brown, at that point, Antonio Brown laughed. I'm trying to pave my own time, but I'm just grateful to be around him and learn the intangibles of what made him great. But when you're in the NFL, it's time to pave your own way, set your own principles. You know what I mean? At that point, Hines Ward, that wasn't the Hines Ward I looked at in college. I took that as AB came into the league and was already ready. I don't believe that AB was already ready when he came into the league. I mean, that's why they took Emmanuel Sanders in the second round or the third round or whatever, and AB went in the sixth round. I also just feel as if Antonio Brown is just the guy that even when he tries to compliment somebody like he did there, it just comes back as a negative, and I'm just not about it.
So I get it, because when you just read the text, it does look like a backhand compliment, because he's like, hey, I'm ready for Hines Ward to get out the way, but he showed me, how to be an NFL pro, how to do this or how to do that. So I get it. I think he was just coming from a perspective of, hey, man, you've been around for a long time. You're not the guy you used to be. I'm young. I'm fresh. I'm here. I know what I can be. But in order for me to reach the heights I can, you need to get out the way. And that's pretty much how I took it. To John's comment in the chat, I don't think he was trying to compliment Hines Ward. And I think he was just trying to be honest that, he knew from an early stage in his career that he was going to be great. For whatever reason, Antonio Brown was destined for greatness. And in order for that to happen, dominoes had to fall, Hines Ward being one of them. So I took that. And granted, he laughed whenever he said it too. So I don't think it came from a Hines, bro, you need to get out the way. You are stopping me from being the receiver I can. I think it's more just so AB having to wait in line and kind of pay his dues a little bit before Hines got out the picture, and then Antonio Brown eventually did take over and be the number one receiver that we saw him become.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't disagree with that. I just still think that Hines Ward is one of those guys that you just don't talk about like that. There's certain guys in Steelers history, and I feel as if Hines Ward falls into that category. And at the same time, don't you think that everybody else was also in his way? I mean, he had to beat out Emmanuel Sanders, which he did, but
Mike Wallace too.
and Mike Wallace, which he did. But I feel as if there was a lot of obstacles that weren't Hines Ward, and he meshed quite well with Hines Ward. Maybe not to the point. I mean, when AB was in his prime, he was the only guy that was ever catching a football, it felt like. But you still needed those other guys. I mean, I don't think AB was that ready. But I agree with you. I do agree with you. I just think that, I look at myself, and a lot of the times I look at myself a lot cockier than people look at me. And I don't go out here talking smack on anybody because I constantly, like I see people in this industry or who want to be in this industry talk smack on some of the legends that are in this industry, especially in the Pittsburgh market. And a lot of times I'm like, yeah, you know what? They deserve it. They are not that good at their job anymore. But it's still a respect thing. You always have to show respect to the people who came before you because they paved the way for you to be in the position that you're in. Antonio Brown is not another Hines Ward. I get that. But there will always be that argument of whether or not Hines Ward or AB is number 1 or 2. In my personal opinion, AB is number 1. But that argument's always going to be made. And I think when it's that close, you don't just look down on a guy and say, hey, get out the way, you should have left. That's just how I feel. I feel like just like Antonio Brown always talks about, or always every time he talks, it comes off as too arrogant for me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He
is way too arrogant. Like that's his entire personality. I mean, we knew that whenever he signed his second deal in Pittsburgh. I mean, you got to have that kind of like chip on your shoulder in order to be that superstar, at least at the receiver position. You got to kind of have that I'm better than you mentality in order to go out, and make plays left and right on an NFL field. I just don't think he was coming from a place of anger or disrespect whenever he said that, because it's like, for example, like as somebody who has been stuck behind somebody else who needs to get out of the way, and my own field in my own path of my career, I feel that. I feel that because you see guys, and okay, I know mad respect for you for doing what you did, but right now you're kind of holding up the line. And, in order for this thing to get moving, you kind of need to get out the way. So I feel like we've all, at least in our personal lives, have felt like held back. I guess if that's the right word for it, held back by somebody else who was like older or at least like a little bit more seasoned. So like I get it.
Yeah, Look, again, I agree with you. You're speaking all facts. Like, I agree with everything that you're saying. And, that's just who AB is,
you're
and
so
respect
more,
to that.
Yours just like, hey, but like you're talking about Hines Ward.
There's just a time and place to be talking smack on somebody, or not even talking smack, but talking in a way that comes off as if you're disrespecting somebody. And I, much respect to Antonio Brown. If I can respect Antonio Brown for anything, it's the fact that he is who he is, and Antonio Brown will always be Antonio Brown. My problem with that is that I don't have those same views. My views are there's a time and place for everything. I
Sure.
never, ever, ever talk smack on anybody in public. Ever. I talk a lot of smack behind the scenes when it's me and my confidants. I do. I will be the first to admit it. Like, and it's not even like a disrespectful smack. It's just like, like this irritates me for this reason. But in public, I am a very mild-mannered human being, and I'm just going to stay chilling because I'm not, it's not that I'm afraid of conflict or somebody that avoids conflict. I'll get right up in your face. Like, me, dude. I am the hottest of the heads, but I'm not somebody who's out here looking to put people down ever. And I feel as if Antonio Brown's always trying to put himself up, and in that process, he puts everybody else around him down.
Oh, again, 1,000%. 1,000%.
I respect that Antonio Brown is who he is. And I like, you got to respect that because you should be who you are. That's just my only issue is that I ain't about putting people down. And AB always seems to be putting people down. But, in the process of that conversation, if Hines Ward was ranked, he was definitely last on the people that Antonio Brown was just taking shots after shots at, because his talk on Colin Kaepernick was wild. I don't want to get into it at all, but I never heard that view. And then I saw Michael Thomas retweet a clip of Antonio Brown talking and say that he agrees. And that sparked a whole new mindset for me. And that whole thing another conversation for another time. I don't think it's on this podcast, but
No.
AB shot some fires, man. Fires. Crazy. I appreciate everybody out here calling me a real one. Thank you very much in the comments. All right. We got to talk about James Bradberry. Before we do a little word here from our boys over at Manscaped. Did you see Tom Brady's ridiculous deal today?
Wild, man.
Did you see that
he's still playing, and after he's done, they're giving him what, like over $30 million a year?
Yeah, it's like 37 or something. It's gonna end up being more than he's made in his playing career. Don't get me wrong, Tom Brady should be telling us about football. That being said,
as long as they give him free reign, because they did that for Tony Romo his first year with CBS, and he was calling everything left and right.
Yeah,
because,
but then
Romo was the reason why I liked Tony Romo so much, and I still do, but the reason why I liked him so much was because he was one of the few guys who brought that fresh perspective onto an NFL field, because you get all these older guys who haven't touched an NFL field or even read an updated NFL playbook in decades. And so Tony Romo gets out there and is like, oh, hey, look, the third safety that they brought in the field is dropping down to the right. Watch out for this. And it happens. It literally happens in front of your eyes. And then CBS is like, hey, bro, you got to stop doing that. You're ruining the game for people and this and that. So,
but I don't understand why it would be ruining the game. Because I think ESPN tried to do that with the Manning cast, which was terrible. Everybody loved the Manning cast. I could not watch the Manning cast. It was awful.
Okay. Yeah.
It was awkward. It was so awkward.
I thought they tried too hard to be funny.
That was way too hard. There was no need for guests.
If it was just Peyton Manning drinking beer, talking about X's and O's, I'm there every Monday night. I promise you I'm there.
Yep. Every single Monday night. Let Eli Manning. I liked Eli Manning in there, but I thought that they, for one, be in the same room, just be chilling on a couch or something, talking some football. Stop trying to be funny. No need for guests. No need for guests, especially on Zoom calls, because nobody got the timing right all season long. Random breaks in between the season were really, really weird. I think that Tom Brady, if he's there every Sunday, you're Fox, you make him call games. If you give him the right person next to him, I think that he could do very, very well. That being said, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, Kevin Burkhardt's going to be next to him, and he's a very, very good person. So Burkhardt he'll handle the play-by-play, and Tom Brady will just be the color guy, and I think he can thrive in that role.
Who do you think will throw more shade? And Brady's will be a different type of shade. Brady's will be a funny shade that he's intentionally doing it at the Steelers. Do you think it will be Tom Brady, and Tom Brady won't call a lot of Steelers games, or will it be Chris Collinsworth?
Still Chris Collinsworth. Dude, that Bengals background definitely helps. And I've definitely warmed up to Collinsworth over the years for sure. But dude, I don't know. And he owns PFF, and I feel every time I see PFF stuff on the Steelers, it's always bad. Always, no matter what. That
came out 2 years ago or something, that Collinsworth owns PFF, and I was just like, well, that explains so much. So much. Why we've always kind of known, but we didn't know. That explains so much. All right, let's talk about James Bradberry. Also, Nathan's got a comment in here on the comments about Pickens looking like I believe Justin Jefferson or CD Lamb maybe. But first, we got a word from our boys over at Manscaped. Sweaty sack summer is approaching, and it's time for you to prioritize the comfort of your crotch. That's why the kings of crotch comfort, Manscaped, have spent 2 years designing the most comfortable boxer briefs out there. I've had the honor of testing these boxers out, and I could say it's the softest fabric of any underwear, and that is so incredibly true. So breathable that it's like the gills for your groin. They even trademarked the jewel pouch, so you know it's serious. I think it's time you invest in your family jewels, so let your bulge breathe. That's a weird way. I think that might be the first time I've ever seen the word bulge spelled out. Crazy. Bulge breathe and get 20% off plus free shipping with our code ALLSTEELERS at manscaped.com. First, Donnie, I think you can confirm this. Manscaped boxers are the best boxers in the whole world.
5, sure.
Like, it's ridiculous. I was very like, oh, like my girlfriend made fun of me just like she does with everything that I use. I'll be putting on Manscaped lip balm, and she's just like, Manscaped lip balm? And I'm like, it's incredible. The boxer briefs I got a good laugh off of, put them on. I was like, I'll never take these off. These are absolutely amazing. All right. Let's say you're on a date and your partner catches that Manscaped on the waistband of your underwear. It's almost guaranteed to raise some eyebrows and act like a billboard on the highway to Pleasure Town. This is thanks to their Lawnmower 4.0, the best electric trimmer for below-the-waist grooming. This trimmer offers skin-safe technology designed to trim hair on loose skin. Outside of just ball trimming, they're now focusing their efforts on helping out your thigh slappers in other ways with the game-changing boxers. These boxers features include the Jewel Pouch, a pouch designed to cradle your boys in their special space, lined with the Perfored Performance fabric. Excuse me, this one's getting me. To keep them well ventilated. Basically, just imagine your balls sipping some pina coladas, chilling on a hammock in some tropical beach. The micro modal fabric is buttery soft and breathable, keeping your cucumber cool. Walk, run, strut these moisture-wicking boxer briefs without breaking a sweat. The tagless waistband hugs your body without digging in, and it lays flat against your skin to reduce chafing. The front fly opens, gives you easy access, and makes bathroom breaks quick and efficient, which we all know none of us use, but we love to have. You can choose from an arrangement of designs and colors and sizes from small to 3X for all the guys out there. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALLSTEELERS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALLSTEELERS at manscaped.com. Once the Boxer Briefs 2.0 touch your sack, you'll never go back. All right, so that one got me. That one got me.
Whatever they're paying you, it's not enough, bro.
I'm just saying. So, you know, shout out. I will say that the Boxer Briefs are amazing. They are amazing.
They are nice.
I should give them a little compliment because I just absolutely destroyed that ad read, but it's all right. We're going to keep going. All right, let's talk some football here. Nathan has a comment here about Pickens looking a little bit like Justin Jefferson or CD Lamb. I think he's got all the upside of both of them. I think George Pickens, in my opinion, is the Steelers' best draft pick by a mile. And I think that's because the only reason he wasn't a first-round pick and possibly one of the first 3 or 4 wide receivers off the board is because he didn't play in 2021. My expectations for year one, ridiculously high.
The other thing I think it's holding him back is he's wearing number 14, which immediately just gives everybody Limas Swede vibes, and like that is not great.
I didn't think of Limas Swede. My first thought was Ray McLeod, Ray Pickens.
Legend.
And Limas Swede's a bad one. When somebody hit me up about Limas Swede, I was like, man, that's an ugly number. That being said, Art Rooney would never give number 1 away. I know that for a fact. Nobody's going to take it. And I think I could get used to 14. He's got an opportunity to redeem himself. Just sticking on that subject real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Austin rocking 19. Moving on from Juju real quick here, are we? Real quick.
If you would have told Steeler fans that there would be a number 19 in the slot next year, guaranteed they would have took it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Easy. Calvin Austin could be that guy. I think I'm just saying it's
interesting, right?
Interesting. They're very interesting.
But all the numbers are very interesting. Somebody has to wear it, you know?
Somebody has to wear it. And, Derek wanted to save this for Saturday, but that's not happening. Sorry. 83, Connor Hayward taking Heath for one. Wow. The fullback argument's gone. It's out the window. Why are we talking about Derek Watt now if in the same conversation as Connor Hayward? Because there's no way 83's standing in the backfield. It's not happening. This is not a David Johnson situation again. They will never go back to that. So 83, Heath Miller. Is it bad?
Who is the tight end that got here? And like they instantly picked up 83, and everybody gave him like so much slack for it that he changed numbers.
I don't
Who was
remember.
it? Like was
I
it
don't.
was it
It wasn't Muth.
was it Nick Vanette?
No, Vanette was 81. I don't know. I don't know who that would be. But
Was it Gentry?
it could have been
Dude, somebody
Gentry.
picked it and got like slandered, bro, whenever he got it. And rightfully
But
so, because
should Connor Hayward get slandered? I think Connor
I
Hayward's
think
got
he should.
upside.
Yeah, bro. What are you doing taking that number? There's like a million other numbers, especially with you being an H-back, that you can pick.
But I don't think that the Steelers like lay out like a million numbers for their rookies. I think they limit them. I don't think that you have free reign as a rookie. Maybe you just didn't know. Maybe Cam wasn't like, dude, are you kidding me? Do you know whose number that is? I don't know. I don't know how to take it.
I don't know.
I didn't have a problem with it, and then everybody else had a problem with it, and I was like, oh, so I'm wrong. So
All I'm saying is that if he catches a touchdown or if he like goes for a first down and the entire stadium yells Heath, that man cannot be upset.
No, but that would be awesome, though.
That would be awesome. That was sick. I was mad whenever they stopped doing it, whenever Jesse James was still catching touchdowns.
Yeah. But the baby Heath, like, I mean, that's another thing. Like, the Steelers fans have tried for so long to replace the Heath Miller chant and everything about him. Like, baby Heath, Muth. I mean, you might as well just give Connor Hayward the number
Muth
and
is
hope
pretty
that
sick, bro.
they're all great. Baby Heath was awesome. Muth was awesome. I just feel like in Connor Hayward's eyes, he was just like, well, people love Heath Miller, man. They might as well just give me his number. And then everybody was just like, yo, back it up here, 6th round pick. Yeah. Just because your last name's Hayward doesn't mean anything. My thought was I'm just guessing what his thought was, but my thought was that thought. And then everybody lost their mind on Twitter. And I was just like, oh, okay. I was wrong.
We'll see about it.
We will see about it. 5, I believe 93 for Mark Robinson. That's a terrible number too. The dude used to play running back. Give him 40 or something. Like he should be standing in the middle of there with something that's not 93. Like Jason Worlds. Are we kidding me?
Jason Worlds, bro.
That's who we're throwing it back to here. Jason Worlds. Mark Robinson is not like it's a totally different game. Marcus Allen still wears 27 for a reason. I feel like when he gets cut, Mark Robinson should be wearing, or Marcus Allen wears 27. Mark Robinson should be wearing 27 when Marcus Allen gets cut. That was a lot of marks. All right. Let's talk about James Bradberry. To the Steelers? Question mark? Maybe. Released by the New York Giants the other day after nobody finalized the trade. That was very strange in its own because everybody came out with reports saying that they had trade offers. None of them seemed good enough. I don't know how none of them seemed good enough compared to releasing him, but that's the route that they chose. They are the New York Giants. These things tend to happen sometimes. Oh, it was Gentry. Appreciate you, Anthony.
Shout out, Anthony.
And now he's a free agent. His market value is, you had it up, it was 3 years, $13.7 million, I believe, a year. The Steelers have $12.8 million in salary cap room right now, roughly. They still have the opportunity to do some stuff. Obviously, Joe Schaubert's a big name. Or not Joe Schauber, excuse me. Stephon Tuitt's a big name. TJ Watt's contract easily renegotiable so that you could add some cap space. I think there's ways to get it done. Is he worth getting it done?
Is he worth getting it done if you are another team? Probably. Is he worth getting it done if you're the Steelers? Probably not. He's had a solid 2-year stretch with the Giants. 2020 was definitely a better year for him than 2021. Last year he allowed a 61.2 completion percentage whenever targeted as the main corner on receivers for 729 yards and 8 touchdowns. He did have 4 interceptions, but he did allow a pass rating of 75.8, and he also had 3 pass interference penalties as well. He is 28 years old, so he is a little older, but he's not quite at that 30 threshold right there. The Giants released him. His contract before he got cut was a 3-year, $43.5 million deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's looking to get somewhere right around there, and that's kind of where I feel like the discrepancy will be between what the Steelers want and what Bradberry wants. As you pointed out, his spot track kind of market value was worth 3 years, $37.6 million. So right around that like 12 to like 13 range, like you were talking about. I think more than anything, this would be a luxury move for the Steelers, and that's just something they don't do. I mean, they already have Sutton, Witherspoon, Wallace, Pierre, and like Mollett in the secondary, and I'm not saying they shouldn't look to upgrade their secondary, but like when you're thinking like the Steelers do, I don't feel like they see the need to add an expensive upgrade to that room.
So I think depending on how expensive it is, it does make some sense. I think that he is more of a true cornerback one than anybody that they have so far, which I think is their biggest need, is that they don't have a true cornerback one. That being said, I do agree that nothing is worth the price range right now, and they do have other priorities that they could fill. He would be a splash guy. He would be a Joe Hayden type situation for the Steelers to put them in there with the veteran that is aging. We get it, but still has some good years left. I don't know how much I'm going to knock like his numbers in New York, because it's New York and the Giants situation as a whole has been rough for a long, long time. I wouldn't be upset with the move. I'm not going to like idolize it like I did like Deebo Samuels or any of those guys, like to the point where I was like, this needs to happen. The Steelers should make this happen. Here's why. And I'm glad I was wrong on those, because I think they did better in the draft than I expected them to. But with this, I could see the value. I would like the value. I would also be okay if Akello Witherspoon and Cam Sutton went out there on the first rep, and then with Levi Wallace coming in afterwards. Yep. So I'm not upset with it. And there's a comment here from Nathan about, the young group that they have in the secondary. I like it. I think that's what they're going for. I think the Steelers' approach here is DeMonte KZ could play all over the field. Arthur Millett's a true slot. Cam Sutton could play all over the field. Trey Norwood could play all over the field. They have guys that they could just plug and play in a bunch of different areas, and they could figure it out from there. Because if you have options, at least you have options. That being said, I don't 100% agree that that's going to work out. I think that there's definitely going to be some hiccups, maybe some costly hiccups, and the Steelers can't afford to be costly hiccups with a rookie quarterback or Mitch Trubisky as their starting quarterback. I don't know. It's very hit or miss. I think a true cornerback one puts this defense 10 times a better spot than they were a week ago or right now. If they don't have it, I don't think it's detrimental.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like 10 times where they were a week ago, but like it would undoubtedly upgrade the cornerback room for sure. My only problem is that like the Steelers would really need Bradberry to come down on that like $13 million per year figure that he's probably going to want to try to emulate. If teams were trying to trade for him, there's certainly a market for him, and like you're eventually going to find yourself in a bidding war, and like you are very certain that you are at least going to reach out to Bradberry just to gauge the interest and see like what the actual number is. But man, like you cannot allow yourself to like continue raising that number just to get a cornerback. And like I already said, I am all for upgrading the cornerback room. But with the price tag that they would have to get him with, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think it happens.
I'm not 100% that it does happen either. So to Nathan's question here, you don't think the secondary can hold up with the front seven? I do. And that's like, I'm not trying to take a hit on the Steelers defense here. I think the Steelers defense is in a much better situation than they were a year ago. There are some concerns, Avery as that third edge rusher, question marks. We still don't know what's going on with Stephon Tuitt. If he's healthy, I think that the Steelers defense is in a whole better situation than people believe or could even imagine. I like Monty Adams and Tyson Alualu in the middle. Cam Sutton's Cam Sutton. I like Leal. There's concerns that there's going to be hiccups. And I'm just going to repeat the word hiccups because I think that's all it is just things that will need to mesh and figure out how they could put these into places so that they have a dynamic defense. I don't think that they're going to be bad. I don't think that the front seven isn't going to hold up, but TJ Watt isn't going to play every down. Alex Highsmith can't play every down. You need a number 3 edge rusher, I think. And that's kind of like a good way to go back on this, because I think that if we were going to list priorities, James Bradberry is well below a number 3 edge rusher. I think that is their top priority right now. I think that would be such a game changer for this defense, one that they've needed for 2 years. I was very surprised that they didn't get in the NFL draft. Maybe Tyree Johnson, an undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M, could contribute, but Derek Tushka, not happening. Avery, I don't even know anything about him, and he wasn't a splash signing. So I think that's a very concerning spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. One that I would definitely say is above cornerback 100%. So that is how I feel about the front seven. I apologize for everybody in these comments that I'm a little off. Because whoever's in here just throwing out, trying to get to interview some NBA 2K dude, no thank you. Big no thank you. And this is a good point. 65% of the snaps played for Watt, 72 for Highsmith. And there were games where, Melvin Ingram kind of got gypped in Pittsburgh, but there were games where he contributed a lot in the first half of the season, and you saw how effective that was, especially when Watt was dealing with injuries. You need that third guy. Alex Highsmith was the perfect third guy in Bud Dupree's final year when everybody was healthy. I think that they need that guy here, and I don't know where they find it at this point, but
see, that's the only problem, is that where do you find a veteran capable enough to do damage on the small amount of plays he's in, that's also very okay with not being that starter? Because I'm still very convinced that they told Melvin Ingram, hey bro, you can compete opposite of TJ Watt for Alex Highsmith. And
there is 100% that.
We all kind of knew that Highsmith was still going to be the starter, even with Ingram on the roster. But dude, to your point, Ingram made a handful of plays, in the short time he was in Pittsburgh, and ultimately, he probably could have started over Highsmith last year. The Steelers decided to roll with Alex anyway. That's not a slight to him, because I still think he's climbing as an outside linebacker, and I think he will be a pretty decent guy. But who are you going to find that can replicate that? Because it's very, very tough to do that, especially at this point in time too, after the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think right now is a weird place to be. And even just looking, Malcolm Smith is out there, Jordan Evans is out there. There's really not a lot of names out there. Eric Wilson's out there. Melvin Ingram's still sitting out there, but I'm pretty sure he's tendered. There's Anthony Barr, which maybe that could be a name. There's just a lot of big question marks on who they could possibly pull in here and say, hey, you're going to just play a very small role. You want to know who is on the market, though? Tuzar Skipper, which could be a name to keep an eye on. I don't know about a good name. I don't know about a name that's going to come in here and, win a job or even do anything
Dude,
successful.
Fans wanted him to win that job.
That's what I'm saying, though. But people love Tuzar Skipper for a preseason game and a half there.
People talked about him like he was Lawrence Taylor, bro. That was the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Dude, they talked about him being a starter.
Remember Ola Adenini? That was another one. There's just, you could go find those guys and say, hey, come play third outside linebacker. I don't know if they're any better than Derek Tushka. Maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe the Steelers are looking at this right now and just saying, maybe Tushka's the guy. Justin Houston, I believe, is still in Baltimore, and James Pierre-Paul is on the open market. That could be a name. Could be. I think that anybody over 30 is what you're going to aim for if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. I think they're going to wait it out, though. I think they're going to see what they have in Tyree Johnson, who they signed out of Texas A&M. I think they're going to see what they have in Derek Tushka. But I would agree. Just to go full circle on this conversation, I would agree. I think that outside linebacker is a much, much bigger need right now than cornerback. And for the first time in all offseason, I would say, I'm not being dramatic and trying to push a name that's big in free agency. So just to pull a little AB here, shout out to myself. for not getting dramatic, for not trying to create a headline like I did with Debo. I pushed the Debo narrative so hard because I wanted it to happen so bad. This time, James Bradberry, go do things somewhere else. I don't know where you're going to end up. It's probably going to be somewhere in the division because that's just what seems to happen all offseason anymore.
Yep.
But, go do your thing.
And
all right,
I think
everybody.
the ultimate litmus test will be if Derek likes him, because if Derek likes him, he's going to end up in the division somehow. But that's the rules. I can't make it up. Any player that Derek likes, Derek Bell covets, goes to either the Bengals, Browns, or Ravens for whatever reason.
Yep. Shout out Andrew Booth. Oh, Minnesota. Minnesota. Excuse me. There was somebody that ended up in. There's probably a million of them.
But there's like 3 in the draft.
Kaylee Ringo will be the guy next year that ends up in Baltimore, just so everybody knows if we're going off of that philosophy. Shout out to Derek. All right. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Use our promo code at manscaped.com for 20% off, plus free shipping. We'll be back Thursday. Peace.